Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Before we get started with the Q&A, I got a couple of things to get started with. Number one, it is a live letter week. Yes, I will be doing all of my normal coverage. There will be a video afterwards on everything that is stated, probably a trailer reaction as well as a separate video, and I'll probably do a few standalone videos. Number two, I'm going on vacation July 30th, and I will not be back until the evening of August 5th. So I will not have a day one patch live stream. First time in I don't even know how many years, but I'm looking forward to it all the same. Life just, it's so much better now. You have no idea. You might have an idea, but you have no idea. But I'll be doing a bunch of stuff when I get back. Probably no guides this time around. You know, if I'm not really there for day one, by the time I do get back and do it, there's going to be all the established PF. So maybe talking about the fight and the strategies that people employ, but not an outright guide for the new EX trial. First time clears through everything, though, will be present, and opinion pieces, State of the Realms, all that good stuff. Number three, this video is going to have a Magic Spoon sponsor ad. Just letting you know now, it's going to play before we get to the Q&A. And number four, my Aloha plush is going to be available for just about another week and a half. So there will be a link to this in the description as well. I'm glad it got made. I'm not really crazy about selling a whole heap and heck of a lot of them, but it's worth calling out because it's not going to be available for that much longer. Supports the channel directly and gives you a piece to remember my first cat buy, who was around for the stream for 8 years before he passed. Look, and he gets to, it would probably help if he didn't fall over. Look, he gets to be right there. Plus I have two other cats in here, Ivy's in here, and Sausage is back there. So it's cat haven right now. Anyway, with that, let's play the Magic Spoon ad and then get on to the Q&A. Oh, and thanks to the Patreon people for supporting as well. Love you guys. Before we get started, the sponsor of this video is Magic Spoon. They make high-protein cereal, snack bars, and granola, and we've been working with them for quite some time. It all tastes great, and honestly, it helps me when my snackometer is going off. And yeah, I get a little snacky. I've been eating their products for years now, and I get excited every time a new box pops up. This latest one came packed with some delicious treat bars and some scrumptious granola. I'm always glad to have a high-protein option around, whether it be right after I get back from the gym, or honestly, sometimes I just want to avoid traditional snacks. If you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, then click the link below to get some today. Build your own custom box of products with tons of available flavors to match your daily needs. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mrhappy to get $5 off of your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store, even on Amazon if you prefer. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mrhappy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mrhappy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and now back to the video. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hello, hi, hope all has been going well. I'd say so. So the question is this: do you have any excitement or curiosity with the eventual implementation of Meracydia? Would love to get some more lore on the continent that's been around since the beginning, and learn more about the Dragon Wars there and how going to the continent moves and interacts with the story as a whole. I mean, of course I'm interested, but we know enough about Meracydia where I can't really... We know enough about its history, but we don't know anything about its present. So curiosity is really where that stops, because we also didn't know about Tyrol, we didn't know about the first, and one of the pain points of Dawn Trail is them basically having to reintroduce entirely new lore and citizens, and it having to be very front and center. And there's the possibility Meracydia could suffer from some of the same. Now, obviously, we've been far more integrated with the dragons and the things that have come from Meracydia in the past. I mean, the Warring Triad. We've gotten a lot of things that carried over from the Allegan era from Meracydia back to the mainland of Eorzea itself. But curiosity is really where, because I want to see if they step through the pacing of the Meracydian story well after Dawn Trail. And I think it's really important that they do. So that's, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey there, Happy. Hi, hope everything's going well. It is. Hope the same for you. Question I was thinking of: do you think that the rise of modding into a widespread status has resulted in a discussion about the game being poisoned? It feels like you can't have conversations about the game in most circles without them having to pivot the conversation to any branch of modding. How is it compared to features made or not made by the developers themselves? And how there are people who think that the health of the game depends on their existence. Basically, all in all, it just feels like the community has become very dependent on them. Very backwards view of them, resulting in not really caring most. Yeah, I don't care about modding at all. But also, I just noticed the questions are cut off on the side. Let me fix that real quick. Bit of live editing. It means that was the case for the first question, but we're not going to start over just for that. Poisoned, I don't know if that's the right word. It's hard to say because I've never cared much for modding, and a lot of the mods that do slip through my like timeline on Twitter, which is really my only exposure to them, are mostly visual mods, which are relatively harmless, but I'm going to say it, most of the time I see people modding, and I'm not referring to mod beasts exclusively, and those of you who know, it doesn't look good. So when I see people really attached to it, it always feels like publicly I'm always seeing the worst of it. Like, it's like when, this is hyperbole, so don't actually take what I'm about to say too seriously. But it reminds me of like going into Black Desert Online and just pushing all the sliders. As it feels like that's like the majority of like the more public facing. So I don't even know what the more private facing side of it looks like. However, the question is really about the conversation being pivoted into modding. And I don't even know how to express an opinion about that because A, it's not something I know anything about. And B, it's not something I even particularly care about. I don't care if people want to do visual mods or do all sorts of stuff. I think it's dangerous that people sell visual mods, because if you're going to get C&D'd for anything, it's that, right? Like, that's brave. They haven't. But if anyone's going to get C&D'd for anything, it's going to be that. And that, to me, is the silly thing, is to sell, like, mod packs and stuff. But I don't know. It's tough to say, because if paying subscribers are playing the game and they're finding their enjoyment through this method, is punishing them worth it? And I don't think the answer is yes. Just because it's so harmless what they're doing most of the time. And so I don't know. It's because, like, obviously I don't care much for like raid related mods. I don't want, in fact, the last two, ever since the top situation, all of my groups have had like, do not use anything like rule. Like, vanilla launcher, I'm sure people have used at least Alexander at some point, right? Like, of all the things I expect people who have probably used, someone's probably used that. But in terms of what had happened, like, I've had, all the groups I've been in have had, like, strict do not do this rule. Like, and I pray to God that people have been keeping to it, because it has been one of the most stressful thoughts every raid tier since top. It's please don't let anyone be doing anything. Please don't let anyone be doing anything. Please don't let anyone be doing anything. So it's, I don't know, it's like a final, because then it's, but then you also get into the discussion, well, can you dislike one but accept the other? Because technically it's all the rules being broken, you know? So it's like, yeah, I guess I am partial. My opinion does change depending on, so it's like so inconsistent. I guess I don't value my own opinion on it enough. As someone who plays the game vanilla, to feel as if I can make an educated enough response that isn't kind of waffly, you know what I mean? Or like shows favoritism towards one, or like disdain towards another, or just kind of like pretending one doesn't even exist because it doesn't affect me, but it does exist, so like I should have a thought. I don't know. It's kind of just this weird thing. So if people in the community are dependent on it and they're paying customers, I wouldn't do anything if I was Square, personally, unless it got like something really bad happened that had to force your hand. And even then, every time something happens, I know that the visual modders, they're all like, oh my God, they're finally going to ban everyone using mods. And it's like meltdown status every single time. Anytime like a raid mishap happens, or you see a UAV online or something like that, even just the modders that just change their appearance, always like, oh my God, it's all over for us. It's so doomed. They're going to ruin the game. I'm going to have to quit. Like, it's crazy how doomy it gets immediately. And so I just want to play the game and just have a good time. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to worry about all this because it doesn't really affect me all that much until it does. And then I just have to be like, well, fuck me. Don't approve of that. Don't know what else to say. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. What new jobs do you hope to see in the new expansion? Dude, if I don't get Puppet Master, who even cares? I know they keep saying if they're going to do anything, it's going to be a limited job, but like, I made a video about how to make Puppet Master not a limited job. So they should just watch that and do what I said, because clearly I'm smarter. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm making fun of people who think that about themselves. Just want to be clear. I was hoping Beastmaster to be on new Fizz range. No, yeah, so I said Puppet Master would be on new Fizz range. But yeah, no, that won't be the case. No, I think we should stop looking at existing Final Fantasy jobs for our predictions and accept that it's more important to kind of guess thematics. Because, like, nobody would have guessed Sage was going to be what Sage is, right? Like, even if you guessed Sage for Sage's own release, you were full of nonsense. Because it was definitely not what you imagined it would be. And the same kind of goes for... Like, Picto made sense. Picto is actually a classic Final Fantasy job, specifically with Realm. But Viper, you could have never guessed Viper, right? Like, you could guess maybe, like, a Twin Sword. You know, like, everyone like, oh, I want like a Darth Maul weapon, which I know is not exactly the same, but you know what I mean. And I saw people predicting that, and you know what? It's not the job, but they get the credit. So thinking more of thematics instead of exact job names is probably the better thing. For example, someone that uses 2 shields, right? That'd be really cool for a tank, right? Dual shield user. But then people are going to go as far as like, oh, they'll call it Crusader, or that'll be their interpretation of Mystic Knight. It's like, yeah, I can't say you're wrong, but I think you're kind of like, it'll be impressive if you guess the weapon correct. Getting the name right would be the double cherry on top, but you don't even have to go that far. And I think it's going to get harder and harder as expansions go on to even get that part of the prediction correct, the name correct. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey there, Haps. Hi. 2 questions. Sure. I asked specifically before about casual versus hardcore when it comes to statics. Now I want to ask about in a general sense. What to you makes a casual player versus a hardcore? There is no definition for casual and hardcore. I think when we use those terms, we use them generally in terms of a way someone feels about the game and not necessarily one specific metric. So if somebody feels like, oh, I'll just log in for whatever and just, I don't know, chill for a bit. That's very, like, it's casual. You think about it like you would think about it in actual, like, real scenarios. Like, oh, I'm going to go out for a casual, like, dinner with friends. You know, it's not like, oh, you're not going to take it too seriously. You're just going to dress kind of a little comfortable, but not like dress up. Like it's super chill. You know what I mean? I think that if that's your attitude towards the game is really chill, you're more casual of a player, you know? And that usually does come with, you don't spend as much time playing. You don't like get involved in too many aspects of the community or things. Like you get involved with some, but you just kind of try to stay in your own lane and just have your own good time. You know what I mean? Hardcore is someone who like pours portions of their lives into something, right? Like me, I'm hardcore. Like even when I'm not playing 14, it doesn't change the fact that I pour so much into it, right? So I'm not casual, I'm hardcore in that sense. When people try to define it any other way, it gets too wonky because playtime doesn't work. Because I know people who beat ultimates and play twice a week for 3 hours a night. And that's just what they do with their time. There's like, well, when I'm on, I'm only going to do ultimate. But they're not hardcore. They're just skilled, but they're playing casually. But then you have people who play 18 hours a day, and you think, oh, that's really hardcore. And it is. But they don't do anything. They'll like sit in town or chat. So they're not hardcore playing. They're more like hardcore dedicating their time into it. So to say there's one definition for each doesn't really work. It is really just more of a feeling that the player puts into it. And somebody can feel they're hardcore when they're playing less hours, and someone can feel casual when they're putting a lot of hours in. So it just... You see what I mean? Like, it's too conflicting to say for certain. And I don't think me defining it is useful. You know? That's just how I think about it, but I can't define it. That's just what it means, as you've asked, to me. And like you've said, I don't think there's a clear-cut definition. Absolutely. Basically just said the things that I said. So, makes sense. Second question, kind of related to the last one. Short version, are some players worse at the game than they realize? I don't know if I should comment. How about I just say this? Yes. Very yes. And I'll leave it at that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. Fates at a cold crescent goes so quick. I've heard lots of people struggling to even get to or tag for credit before they're gone during peak times. Wondering why the difficulty doesn't scale with the number of people in the zone and for how long they take to counteract this. So, they commented very specifically on this during the latest letter from the producer live. That is the first part of the 7.3 preview where they talked about the Fork Tower and Cosmic Exploration changes. It takes too long for them to effectively scale, is what they realized. So they said by the time it even begins making adjustments, it's too late. The way it works is a mix of things. It's like the number of people who previously defeated it mixed against the number of people actively present in the zone, followed by the number of people in the immediate vicinity upon something being reset or pulled. It's actually quite odd and complicated, but the system is too slow to figure out what is the correct number of people. It's not like dynamically being like, oh, you're in range now, my health went up. Oh, you're in range now, my health went up. It kind of needs like an indicator to tell it that it needs to become more powerful or it needs to power down. And that indicator is too slow. In fact, so slow that the only feasible way most people can take something that's too strong and make it weak is to reset it. And the same technically, I think, goes the other way, that if somebody resets a boss and after a bunch of people show up, I think it's health, when health resets to 100%, I think it actually goes up based on the number of people around. I'd have to double check that. But they even said clearly the way it's calculated is out of date. This is an admission that they made. So we might see some sort of improvement to that. Why they go from queuing for critical engagements and budget to this new system? So the reason why they went to the new system is very specifically because for critical engagements in Bozia, people basically just sat in the base and waited and then queued in and went back to base and did nothing. So you had a large number of people effectively just AFK around the Aetheryte instead of actually going to locations. And I know that seems really minor, but there is a different sense of scale with the game when everyone just sits in one spot and waits for something to happen, versus people actually moving around and going places. There's a different kind of feel that comes with it. It's not for everyone, but it is something to consider. When people look at older MMOs, ones that had less travel options, a lot of the people who are nostalgic for that, they remember the journeys that they took to get from one place to the next and seeing other people making that journey and it giving some sort of sense of life to the world. I'm not wild about it because while it's cool the first time, in my opinion, it loses all of its luster very quickly and just becomes a time sink after that. Here, it's not that much of a time sink. It's about 60 seconds. There, we're talking about 15 to 30 minutes sometimes, even longer. But I think they were trying to get some of that feeling there to make players more actively feel like they had to participate in actually going places instead of just sitting in one place and waiting. Whether or not it worked efficiently in that way, given the way that the spawns work, is a matter of opinion, and I don't think anyone will have the same opinion on that. But that would be the reason. It's just a matter of the execution. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good morning. Hi. Possible spoilers for those watching. It's Shadowbringers. I can't be asked. But yeah, I mean, you've been warned. Hopefully you're not reading on the screen. It's Shadowbringers. It's related to the weapon quest line in Shadowbringers. It's been like 5 years since that quest line. You know, I can't be worried too much. The Sapphire weapon fight in Shadowbringers provided us a unique game mechanic to pilot a mech. It happens once. We can't ever go back to it. We've never seen it since. It seems like a shame to develop an entire gameplay mechanic set to only toss it aside. Do you feel there's value in reviving this and similar one-off content? There has been a past suggestion by the community, and I have supported the suggestion, of what is called the solo duty roulette, where all of the solo duties in the game are effectively thrown into a roulette that allows you to replay them. That includes Cape Westwind. That includes the end of after Porta Decumana with the La Habrea fight. That includes stuff like this. Obviously, there's a bit of a question where that begins and ends. I don't know if I'd want to do, for example, Thancred's stealth mission from Endwalker. So maybe just the encounter-related ones. But there have been parts of the community in the past that have actually asked for this exact thing. Do I think it'll happen? No, I don't think they're made to even allow that to happen. They aren't accessed through the Duty Finder window. It's kind of similar to other things like, what's a good example? Like Deep Dungeons and Variant Dungeons, where it's kind of got its own separate entry mechanic, and thus it doesn't naturally in the code hook into a roulette of any kind. They'd have to kind of develop the system from scratch. But it might be worth doing. at some point. People like roulettes, so why not give them another one? Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. I primarily rated 3 to 4 hours each session for 3 to 4 raid days across each 7 and Ultimate. I was thinking about how hardcore raiders are able to play for so long, both mentally and physically. That is, what kind of maintenance goes into avoid stuff like RSI or negative emotions? RSI. I might know what you mean. Hold on. RSI definition. Relative strength index, repetitive strain injury. That's the one that you mean. Or negative emotions, even communicating with declining filter from exhaustion. Everyone handles it differently. Some people don't handle it very well at all. I always just say you treat raiding long hours like you would like a sort of physical event. You need good sleep. You need good foods, things like fruits, and you need to avoid stuff like fruits and proper amounts of carbs. Like avoid foods that make you sleepy. Eat well, sleep well. What is it? I'm trying to think of what else Master Roshi says. I don't know. Whatever Master Roshi says in Dragon Ball effectively works for this as well. Working on communication skills is something individuals benefit highly from when it comes to being raiders. If you cannot work on your communication, then you as a raider will certainly struggle to be kept on groups or to feel as though you can stay in one place. They'll often kind of deflect onto other people, or you get kicked a lot. That happens as well. So it's a lot of just practicing, in all honesty, being a decently healthy being outside of raid so you can be decently healthy inside of raid. I saw the hashtag, although it's done very oddly. Hey, Mr. Hashtag with Happy. Okay, hashtag with, got it. Oh, I hope the week's been good to you. It has been. We're still always away. I'm sure you meant a ways away. Still coming up to the next wave of Blue Mage. Found myself a touch disappointed. The last set of spells, really only Goblin Punch revolutionized how the job is framed, while the rest were niche or more off-global. Dude, the number of off-global AoE nukes is insane. I can see why it's hard. After all, the White Wind makes healing irrelevant. You don't get much damage than instant death. And even then, they keep giving us more nukes. They seem to be inconsistent then they seem to be inconsistent that we can't have reliable tank CDs because that would make things too easy. Do you think that there's untapped skill set they can reasonably add to Blue Mage? I think they might need to better emphasize the non-damaged portions of Blue Mage. Kind of what you just talked about, how they're kind of afraid to make tank cooldowns too strong. But I think they actually do need to buckle down and definitively make those playstyles feel more significantly different. Can you do that in one patch, for example, without reworking the old skills? I don't think so. But I feel like that is what they could do to address exactly the issue that you're referring to. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. So, sorry to say. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Hello and good morning, I think. Not right now, but it will be when you watch this. Now that it has been possible for some time, do you think a full selfish comp results in greater overall damage or one where everyone has a party buff? I think that if me answering this without just straight up looking at the numbers is meaningless. Because you can easily just put together the R DPS of 4 jobs. You would have to do 4 jobs that do not upset the limit break conditions. But what I think is the better way to put it is that the difference between buff or not buff is... How do I put this? There's a breaking point where it's better or worse, but that breaking point is not significant. And that it's more accurate to say that as long as a job is performing well on the aggregate, regardless of whether or not it's selfish, it's performing well. And thus, if 4 selfish jobs are performing well on the aggregate, then all 4 of them should be good. Now, the problem with that is that how you perform on the aggregate is different per fight, because some fights are better for different jobs. So I think that that's where the struggle kind of kicks in, the per patch design, the per patch balance. But I think it's safe to say nobody should be looking at a selfish job and being like, oh, no, a selfish job without raid buffs can't have that. I don't think that's a good outlook to have. I don't think it's useful, and I don't think it even achieves what you want. You want a player who's playing well on whatever job they're playing while meeting the good limit break conditions as best as possible. And that's kind of it. So I just would frame this differently. Because if you say outright, yes, it's better, then everyone would just play those jobs and only those jobs. But I think we're at a point where we're seeing the selfish jobs perform so well that you actually are likely to see 2 or even 3 of them in any given party, at least at a reliable pace. And I don't think there's a problem with that because you still see plenty of the non-selfish jobs too. So I think we're in a pretty good spot for selfish jobs versus non-selfish jobs, where all are well as long as they're balanced, well in the first place. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Quick question. How does self-mitigation get snapshotted? For example, in M8S when Howling Blade when it's too late for a reprisal in the boss cast bar, when it's too late for mitigation, it applies on parties such as Dark Missionary. Do multi-hit attacks snapshot you, and if you don't pre-pop mitts, you're pretty much screwed throughout the entire hit? So here's the thing. It depends on the individual attack. In most cases, it does count per individual hit. So if it falls off early, then it will not work for every hit. So let's say an attack is, I'll use the most basic one, Akmorn. Let's say Akmorn hits 6 times. Your mid is up for 5 hits, but misses the 6th hit. You will not receive mitigation, even though your mitigation was there at the start. Now, I don't have examples of times where something like that is not the case, but I'm sure if I looked, I would find them. This is better answered by tanks who are more regularly hit by these types of attacks, or healers who are more regularly used to mitigating these types of attacks. I don't think, as a bard, I often troubadour in places that seem logically smart to troubadour, and I only ever think about it any more than that when healers or tanks have input. So if a healer or a tank isn't providing input, I often don't look past whatever decision I'm making. It's why sometimes there's like global mitigation rules that I just flat out don't agree with whenever I see like mit sheets, specifically in the troubadour usage. Because to me, they logically don't help in places where help is needed. They kind of are over mit. And they can be used maybe mildly less effectively on a more effective individual hit. It's a different way of thinking, I suppose. Some people look at it as per use. I look at it as per use that actually matters. Like, I see people use, like, mitts on something and then take, like, 12,000 damage. And I'm like, why? Why would I even bother missing? Like, you could be like, oh, well, it's in case somebody misses it. I took 12,000 damage out of my, like, 150,000 health. That means there's way too much here. So... it's and that's, mind you, I'm not including Spreadlow, because Spreadlow just obliterates so many raid wides on its own. It's actually insane. So I couldn't answer this flat out for every AoE. I'd have to look at every individual one and fact check myself. So I'll just tell you that expect it to work the way I've described, but don't be surprised if it doesn't. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Hope you're doing well. You too. And sorry if this has been asked for. Don't bother apologizing. I've answered plenty of questions multiple times. Comes with the territory. My favorite content added in 6.x was Criterion dungeons. Remember they said they're going to keep them in 7.x. Now 7.3. I'm a bit alarmed they didn't mention it or show it in the live letter. Think it will come later? Yeah, I think we're just getting one and it's probably in 0.4x. I think the big thing they need to test with Criterion is something they didn't want to test in 0.2x because of Occult Crescent. They probably want additional gear ahead of an ultimate, specifically. I think they understand that, and I think this should be evident with 7.3. If you do not provide ultimates to gear up for, having an additional thing that rewards gear is usually a bit less of a priority. I don't think it's a good enough reason. I would still rather see a Criterion in every even-numbered patch if given the option. Because it's not just about gearing for ultimates. Some people just like gearing, or gearing multiple jobs even. And it feels good as a player to know, A, you have another piece of content that you can use the gear you've already obtained, but B, if you're someone who doesn't have a whole lot of gear and may still be working on it, you're now given another gear outlet. And I think that's more important than caring specifically about gearing up for an upcoming ultimate. Because most people who gear up through Savage don't use that gear in an ultimate. They just do Savage. Some of them just do either Barst runs in Savage. Some of them just like clearing Savage. Like, there's no set answer for why any one person specifically wants to collect gear. So I think it's at 7.4. And that'll be the only one. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing well. I sure am. Regarding Beastmaster, do you think it's possible it'll play out like OG Summoner? No. Oh, I'm so sorry. I could say yes, technically. Because I was thinking 11 Summoner. I don't know why. But that's why I said that. And the answer was definitely no. Yeah, that's logical. Honestly, I'm not worried about the combat portion. I'm worried about the collection portion. Because if it's trying to be an honest homage to Final Fantasy XI, it restricts how you use it a lot in terms of interpretation. So I feel like they really need a unique interpretation, which is weird because then that goes against the entire point of it, if that makes sense. I don't know. But I think that if I were to take a safe bet, it would be closer to Final Fantasy XIV's OG Summon. Again, I just jumped to 11 because Beastmaster makes me think of Final Fantasy 11 realistically. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I would like a Pokemon Battler for all the reasons I've stated, where I think it's easier to update and support and actually be meaningful content to a wider variety of players. But I think it's a safe bet to guess what you've guessed. I wouldn't be shocked if you were correct. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Hope you're doing well. You too. 7.3, we're halfway towards 8.0. What is the odd for 14 to remove or improve the Jobstone system? The reason I recently encountered a reportable offense for someone who forgot to put on their Summoner Stone. Just wondering, hope that they will ever fix. A reportable offense of someone who forgot. Unfortunately, the logic of this doesn't add up. They forgot, or they deliberately did it to grief, are two very different things. So you can't, it's not a reportable offense if somebody enters an instance as a class. It's if they enter the instance as a class and then go, tee-hee, fuck you. Like, they're antagonistic about it. But if they run the dungeon, complete the dungeon, is it good? No. But they haven't technically committed a bannable offense. Now, that being said, I've said for a long time now, they might as well just have your class upgrade to a job and never go back. That would require them to split Arcanist into Summoner and Scholar. Final Fantasy XIV Mobile does that, so you don't have that issue, and it forces the job advancement, and you cannot go back. So, what are the odds? Not very high, but not impossible. And I don't think I would count it out forever. I just don't think it would be a priority. Hashtag Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. Saturday, what a day. I can't remember the last thing he says. I haven't seen happy days in so long. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing good. The question is pretty self-answerable, but I think I'm going to ask it anyway. Would it benefit or detriment to a game if every job's biggest attack guaranteed direct hit for the expansion it debuts in and perhaps even gets a bigger potency attack? Direct hit is one of the worst things to happen to Final Fantasy XIV. And while it's in the game, the more crit direct hits we have, the less damage variance there is. By direct hit being added into the game, alongside the 2-minute window, we have effectively created so much damage variance that when you don't have automatic direct crits, the game is actively worse to balance. So the answer is kind of yes to your question, but not for a good reason. And I'd sooner remove direct hit altogether, in all honesty. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing well. I am. I'm a relatively new watcher. Can you introduce your clouder of chats and what all it is? So they're not all in here. I introduced Aloha's plush earlier. Be sure to buy it. Ivy is kind of hard to see. She's tucked away inside this cappuccino behind the microphone. You can kind of see her right there. That is Sausage. Now keep in mind, when I moved out to South Carolina, I had one cat. That's Ivy. The other 4 cats were Sophie's, and I have since effectively become an adoptive father to them. That is Sausage. There is another large cat, not quite like her, like kind of a similar-ish breed, but like different fur color, different fur consistency, but like they look similar to me in some capacity. That's Bacon. There's an orange cat named Cinnamon, and then there's a black cat named Temmie. Temmie is really shy. Temmie cannot emotionally regulate. They're actually not able to produce hormones that help them emotionally regulate, so they're a bit of a special case. Sausage is a princess through and through. Ivy and Cinnamon need tons of attention, and Bacon is the rowdy young one who attacks everyone else. So that's a pretty good description of the 5 cats in this household. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. With the increased interest in Beastmaster, yeah, so many Beastmaster questions, and further 11 raid series, I've been feeling nostalgic about a certain piece of 11 content. Let's see what it is. I played 11 for over a decade, but the only reason I go back is for a certain unpopular piece of content, Monstrosity. I don't know why I didn't see that coming. I love leveling and unlocking new monsters through their species. I would love to relive this content 14. Did you try this in 11? No, and quite frankly, I had no interest in it. Final Fantasy 11, for all the things that it's tried to do, whenever it does a weird piece of side content, I often just hated it. Like Pancration, hated it. And the only people who liked Pancration were the 2 people with busted elementals and slimes, because that's what the meta was. And then they just forced Pancration, not even Pancration, they forced picture taking on people for ENMs, which wasn't that bad, but it was just a weird idea. Monstrosity, I just on essence didn't care about. And I'm sure I could come up with some other examples, but no, I just, quite frankly, I couldn't be asked. In all honesty, I just did not find any of them interesting. Some of that's just because it's Final Fantasy 11, so it's kind of limiting how much they can do or how well it plays. But meh. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Yo ho, Haps. Hi. I think 14 devs would modify hunts so as to deal more damage to and take less damage from higher level players. I think that they should have more health. I think they should factor in. I get that a Realm Reborn hunts are level 50 and are in a Realm Reborn zones, but the reality is all the 100 players are the ones killing them all the time. And take less damage is another option. I think, honestly, just raising their health to be closer to a modern S-rank HP as time goes on would probably be the better idea. I think it's more important that they die slower and less that they're more threatening, because they usually just get zerged down anyway. So, I don't, and honestly, fight them as originally intended doesn't matter. Most of them aren't very interesting, or we're so bare, hunts very rarely have a whole lot going on. Even the double S ranks do not have a whole lot going on. A couple more things, but they're like a dungeon boss. And then we just murder them as 400 people. I don't think they're interesting enough mechanically in any capacity to the point where we should consider trying to make them difficult or force them to be fought, quote, as intended. I think it's more important for them to be alive a little bit longer than anything else. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. With the ongoing discourse with the online store, it feels like every time the store updates, everybody gets a bee in their pond. I wonder if we could see if SE could one day add Mog Station items in the Moogle event, albeit at a higher price. That's never going to happen. So, one thing they really need to do a better job with. Some of the most expensive items that we get, including this recent $42 outfit, it's $42 only because, and I don't agree with this, but I get why, only because it's from, I think, Korea, and it was roughly 42 USD for it there. That's the main reason. Now, they never communicate that, so if you're not following those regions of the world and their pricing, you just see what you see. And nobody should be expected to do that. So whenever they add something new, they should explain the pricing of it. If it's from another region, they should be like, this was the approximate, the approximate amount of that this cost in Korea when equal to USD or something like that. They should also maybe just not put it up for $42. I get that, they gotta pay because they didn't make it. They actually, I'm pretty sure, do reverse pay it back to the Korean dev team. So they actually do, even though it's their intellectual property, and then it's being made, because it's actually made by the Korean team and not by the JP team, or same with the Chinese team when it happens for there, then I'm pretty sure in terms of payment, they are legally like not allowed to reduce, like have it at a lower cost, at least as close to the original intended cost as it would have been in USD. But because of that, it means those items can never just be released into the game. And I think they don't want to do this for the other reason, in that the moment they do, anyone who spends money on the Mog Station is going to be furious. It's just going to happen. So it's one of those things that it's one of those, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But when you think about it logically from like a company standpoint, it's not logistically like a possible thing to do. No. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope all is well. The question I thought about is based on something from last week. Do you think SC wants to keep Rival Wings as seasonal content that is only active during the Mog Tomes? But it's not. It's there all the time. I think they just don't want to get rid of Rival Wings, period. They add it there. They know people will do it there. But they're not like, this is seasonal content. They just care a lot more about every other form of PvP that isn't Rival Wings. So, no. And this is the last question, though. I'm pretty sure there were some comments I skipped past that maybe had some questions. So I'll do that like real quick after this one. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. Hi. I got 3 lines. Grats. I don't even try Wondrous Tales. Like, I don't even go for the Gamba. I got a gold cert. How do I go about selling this as a chess piece on the next raid tier? So, the easiest way is to go on a really popular raiding data center for whatever region you play on, and to look for people who are looking to buy certs. So one big thing with the Party Finder is you can't sell a service on the Party Finder anymore. You can, however, ask other people. You like buy a service on the PF. So you can like buy a mount run or buy clears or things like that. You can merc on the PF. So groups will do that. Now there are other methods. I just don't know them well enough. There's like raiding discords that have gold cert channels, and I don't know. Maybe one of the subreddits does too. You might need to look a little bit more into that. But around the time of a new Savage tier releasing, not an upcoming odd numbered patch, Savage tier, you want to do it then. Now I will also say this. The smartest thing to do is to wait until an expansion launch. The reason being, we have a 1-week delay between crafted gear and Savage for 0.2 and 0.4. So the value of gold certs goes way, way down. They're just not as valuable in those patches as they are in the expansion where Savage and crafted gear drop the same day. So if you have a lot of patience, you may want to consider doing that instead. If you don't have that kind of patience, do what I said, but do it for patch 7.4 or any 0.2, any even number patch, realistically. Oh, also it asked about the Brute Bomber coming back as the Undertaker for M11. Yeah, the Brute Undertaker. No. What was it? I had another name for it instead of the Brute Undertaker. It was something else. But yeah, sure, we'll go with that. All right, that was the last question. What's it called? Somebody asked about Oglops for Feral Souls. God, I do not want to fight an Oglop Feral Soul, trust me. Why is the plush sad? It's not sad. He's indifferent. Because this was his sourpuss face all the time. This is an accurate to cat interpretation of Aloha. And then I swear there was one other one that I saw. Oh, what was your favorite Final Fantasy not divisible by 7? 7 is like mid as hell for me. The original Final Fantasy 7, in terms of my overall Final Fantasy rating, is honestly like pretty mid. I love disc 1 of Final Fantasy 7, and for me it just hard crashes after disc 1. Like it just gets way worse from that point on. I'm loving remake and I'm loving the remake series, I guess I should say. I hope it ends strong because I've really enjoyed it up to this point. And that one's good. But no, my favorites are 610 and Zodiac Age in that order for 1, 2, and 3. 12 is weird because 12 was always near the bottom for me, but Zodiac Age addressed a lot of my core issues. So when it comes to actually like playing Zodiac Age, it's really fun. It's kind of like a single player MMO in a lot of ways. And I think that works really well for me. And I thought there was one other one that was like an actual question that wasn't just like a rhetorical question. Oh, somebody asked me how I got the Aloha plush made. He fell off the bed. No, Makeship works with creators to like do this. So this was like a creator thing. They don't just like make plushes. I'm sure there are companies that will custom make you your own plush. But for this is like a pledging process. You need to prove people will buy it. You need to make sure, like, they take care of everything. So Makeship is the company that handled this. I spoke to a representative there, and that's how they happen. But they don't do just like, I'm gonna make something for you. It's definitely more in the like creator space than anything else. But I think that was the last one. So that's gonna be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring. Thanks again to all of you for watching. And if you have a question, be sure to ask it in the comment section of the video below. But with that, I will see all of you in the next weekly Q&A. Oh, so because I'm going on vacation on the 30th, and the next weekly Q&A is on the, what is today? I'm recording this on Saturday, so on the 21st. So that means the next Q&A will be answered on the 28th. I'm not going to have a Q&A that week. I will not be making a weekly Q&A the Monday of August 4th. I'm not going to worry about recording a weekly Q&A when I'm in another country. If I'm feeling like if somehow I have the spare time, maybe I'll record it on my phone. But I sincerely doubt that. So expect a 1-week break from the weekly Q&A. Just letting you know. Next week there will be one though. So with that, thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, ask your questions below, and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.